guys, welcome back to Ask the Oracle channel. My name is Davina and I am your hostess with the mostest. Well, I like the way it sounds. So today's topic that I'm going to be sharing with you is going to deal with, whoa, it might trigger a few people, but this is something that came to my attention about the strategies that darkness uses versus the light uses. I open books when I need information. So this is coming up for me so timely. I was drawn to it again. So I've read this before, but today I'm being asked to share what I know so that you, if you're not already aware of the strategies that they use, nothing has changed. It's the same old souls being reincarnated again and again, using the same strategies against the light bearers, those who are just humans. You know, all humans have light. That spark, that essence they receive through the Holy Spirit when they're born into a body. That spark that originates from the beginning when the cosmic sun exploded and spit everybody out. I saw that in a vision when I was hypnotized. I saw the cosmic sun and the beginning where souls come from, some spark of planetary explosions and stuff. Imagine. So when you hear the saying, we're made from stardust, there may be a little bit of truth in that. Today's topic, I'm going to be talking about something called Know Thyself, Be True, Thy Heart Knows the Way. You know, in Shakespeare's time, they used to say thy and thine and thou and thee. Now we just say, know thyself, be true. And, you know, I'm a big Rumi, I guess if you were to say fan, but I don't like the word fan. So I'm a big Rumi follower. I love Rumi. And so some of my inspiration comes from him. So, you know, the heart knows the way. It's somewhere he said that before. So the adversary, there is an adversary to humanity. And this, it reminds me of the story when my daughter was telling me about the Radium girls. There was a company. I should have looked this up. I meant to look up the Radium girls story. Oh Lord. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I know. You're welcome to look it up. I encourage you to look the story up on your own. So in the early 1800s, 19th century, there was a company called something Corp. Can't remember. Was it Radium? I don't remember the name of the company. And the name itself was telling of what it was. Anyway, so they hired some women, to work for them. And they knew that these women were going to be painting, they were hand painting watches with this glowing radiation product. And they told them, now listen to this, guys. This is crazy psychopathic stuff, okay? It's what we would term, in using spiritual language, it's the Antichrist, which means anti-human, anti-life agenda. Doesn't even have to be human. It feeds on all life forms that have light. Well, anyways, these people told these young, innocent women, girls that work for them in a factory, to dip it in their tongue with it on them. So their mouth and teeth were rotting and they were being poisoned by their employer. If that wasn't a case for reincarnation, I don't know what is, because those tactics have been used by the darks, the dark absence of light beings, you know, every century. All right, so think about that. It made me think of the modern day equivalent is when they gave the farmers free sludge and called it fertilizer from the sewages, and ended up giving it to farmers, I think really cheap or free, or encouraging somebody who was a legitimate official, company, I don't know if it was a government, I don't know exactly know the story, so you'll want to look this up, but it's out there. Even sludge. So then what, that's think about the tactic, how you would put your opponent out as poison them, say, hey, I got this thing, it's good for the plant, you can have it really low, let's create this company and sell this garbage to poison our opponent. That's the way they take them out. Well, they're not beyond poisoning, because my whole point is there the powers that, what is it called? Let me look at this here, because I'm having a moment where, what are they called? The Dark Brotherhood? What is the name for them? The ones that are placing themselves in positions of power and abusing it, and instilling a slavery system based on monetary means that they want to control. And they're not happy with just a little bit of control. They want to take the land and poison the farmers, small farmers out, snuff them out, and these big corporations, the livelihoods of people, stealing from the people. Like, they give you these, in modern day times, it might look like 30% interest on a loan or credit card. I mean, think about that for a second. No, actually, it's 29.9% APR or interest that any purchase you make, if you don't pay it off immediately. That's a snag. That's a snag in the system. They create all these crazy rules, and they create slavery to a system when the the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage, hasn't gone up in over 16 years or something like that. So they get to pay wages from 20 years ago, and then they create this dependent system where a system has been created by somebody with these agendas that want to control, and not in a healthy way. So today I want to encourage you, if you found my channel, let me know, comment, contact me, let me know your thoughts, okay? Because this is important, guys. We know where we're at in the streamline of time, and it's wonderful. We are in an amazing time period right now on Earth. It's exciting. So we're in a cycle. We're in the cycle where one ends, closes, and one begins. And that is exciting, guys. We signed up for this. Like it or not, we signed up to be here. If you're watching this video, I'm drinking warm tea. It's gonna be my thing because it makes me feel happy inside. It's the herbal tea, especially peppermint. Oh, it's so nice. It just soothes. It's like if you're feeling like your throat is scratchy and sore, peppermint and lemon and honey, manuka honey, is such a good remedy. So take care of yourself. Take care of yourself because I said so. All right, so let's keep going, shall we? So think about this, okay, guys, that we are living in a beautiful planet that provides everything for us for free. And most human beings are good. Most human beings are just the way they are. You know what I mean? And the adversary will even use that against human beings. And what is interesting, though, is that keep in mind that some of these adversaries are so bright. They shine like Lucifer and Satan. They're very bright, golden. It's funny because I can see auras when I tune in and meditate on it if I want to. And someone asked me, they go, what do you see around such and such's head and face and aura? And so I went into a meditative state, and I saw gold and bright light coming out of the head of this person. So I could see why a lot of the people who call themselves Christians at the time, I could see why they would follow him, a personality. But we have to remember, the adversary doesn't like light. The adversary likes personality. And it doesn't lead by light, it leads by personality, big, bright, bold stars. People in the public eye that people worship for all the wrong reasons. Come on, guys. We don't worship anybody. We're sovereign in our own being, and our intuition is turned on, and we know by their fruits, we know who they are. You know, the dark brotherhood cannot hide even in bright light, because when you see their shadow side, which is what is the fruits of their labor, what is the fruits they're producing by their words and actions, really, what's really happening. And so then even their light, though it's so bright, you can see that that's just the reflection. The reflection, they can only steal the illusion of light because there's no light inside of those beings. And it's not a judgment, it's to be on guard, to know it exists so that you're not taken off your path. Because that's what the adversary does to humanity. The story of entrapment and the enslavement agenda is one we've seen over and over, but in different ways and tactics. And throughout history, I love history. It's been a while since I've read, you know, a good novel based in history, but I'm sharing my stories with history and what I'm being drawn to share with the audience, okay? So if you resonate, let me know. Make sure you check my description box. I've got some events coming up, and I'd love for you to join us if you're called to do so. Let's talk more about the inverted. It's an inverted light, you know, inverted. Anyway, so the thing, though, that I learned today that I want to share that's so inspiring is that when you reach a certain level of enlightenment and you are able to shift realities and collapse the waves, and I'm being guided to share these things because I am being guided to teach what I know on the topic. I have had some amazing kooky teachers in the past, and I love, those were my favorite teachers, the ones who would get up in front of the audience and tell you stories and then wear shiny shoes and do dances. That was my favorite professor for psychology, and I forgot his name, but he was the coolest guy. Every story he told me in class, in front when he gave lectures, I was so absorbed in them. I love you wherever you are, professor. You taught me so much. But okay, so I've had some great teachers in the spirit world as well as in real life world, and I think everyone's our teacher. You know what I mean? Like when you look at life that way, when you see the cats, the dogs, the birds, and energy, the way it interacts with us, that's our teachers. It tells us where we're at, and we just, you know, we're like, oh, is that where we're at now? Oh, I thought I was over here. But when you get your test, you realize that you might not know as much as you thought you did in one area, or things shift and change, right? So just remember that the adversary only appears bright because they live on borrowed reflected light from the brothers and sisters humanity. Borrowed reflected light, okay? It's not real. They drain it from the collective in so many different ways and tactics do they get our energy and steal our energy, even when we devote too much time to thinking about them. That's a tactic too. But we're going to go over some stuff today. So what I wanted to share, though, is to remember, we have to remember that our inherent right is freedom. We're not slaves. We're not slaves, okay? So keep that in mind. Know thyself. So one of the things they do, they're really good at karma dodging. And, you know, think about that, and that also reminded me of the tactics they used in the Radium girls story, is that they tried to prolong the court cases so the girls wouldn't get any money for their, what they did to them, the horror that they did to them. So delay is a tactic that the dark ones use. They also use distraction, and sometimes we are our own worst enemy. We will sabotage things because we procrastinate or we fail to make a decision. And we all know that to fail to make a decision is really in default making a decision to do nothing. So that window or that opportunity might go, it might leave, and we missed it. You know, there are times when if we're not listening to our internal voice, that nudging, that thoughts that come to us, you know, the feelings like, oh, I've got to act on this. If we don't do it because we're afraid we're going to make the wrong decision, or we have anxiety about, and that stops us from doing what we have set out to do. And many things, like the light bearers have come here to do amazing things because we can. And yet there's this adversarial force that is always working against the light while it's using their energy and creating a system where it feeds off of everyone while they're getting rich. They're having the people, they're stealing from the people and poisoning them at the same time, just like the company that was giving her a paycheck. But the girls, the Radium girls, that was an insane thing, right? And it just reminds me of where we are today with these corporations poisoning our food with cancer-causing glyphosate or glyphosate. You know, it's so funny. There are words that I block out and I don't pronounce, and that's one of them. So I apologize. We don't need to support them anymore. It kills the butterflies, the bees, and it's poison, right? Whoever, you know, all the chemicals, like, you know, come on now. We know how to live. We're not fools. We don't support what doesn't sustain itself. You know, that's the thing. I think people need to be brave. They need to stand up for their sovereign right to freedoms and demand accountability. And then you transform it, because they have to be held accountable. When justice arrives, which is a karmic thing, like they try to delay their karmic payback. And they also use sympathy too. So don't allow the dark ones to suck you into some kind of sympathetic story that gets you off your path either, because a lot of times they'll have people voting against themselves. They just tell you a story and lie. So, you know, the people just need to feel what's right for them and not be afraid. You know, think about it in that this is your sovereign right. They don't have the right to spy on us. They don't have the right to create all these things and force us to buy their products. No, we have the power. The people are so amazing and powerful, especially when they remember that. So that is why I'm here today, is to share some light. And also, you know, for those of you who kind of, like, for me, I was raised in several religions, and so I do have a little bit of a Christian background, but I don't have a religion. I prefer to admire all the beauty and things that you find in all religions, the good stuff, and release the negative aspects. So I don't really need to identify with a religion. So for me, I can speak about stories from the Bible, and it doesn't offend me. But for those of you who remember the story about Jesus and that biblical story, the rabbis are the ones that ganged up on him and wanted to kill him. They wanted him dead. He didn't go along with their lies and their schemes, and they were a religious leader. So, I mean, the story, we know who are the perpetrators in those stories in history in the past. So talking about history, when I got off and told you how I love my professor that was my psychology professor, for getting up and teaching me and telling me these stories that kept me engrossed into learning what he was, you know, he was amazing. And you don't get that many good teachers. So I really I love my teachers that have inspired me throughout time and so on. And, you know, I also find inspiration from, you know, the stories of history. Have you ever heard of the strategy, the Fabian strategy, which is all about wearing your enemy out in every way except for attacking them physically? All right, this is where I was supposed to read to you something from the book called, and this is from staff of the Summit University teaching They were Elizabeth, Claire, and Mark Prophet. Anyway, so I do love their material. I learn a lot when I read these books. So check them out. The Summit Lighthouse. I love them. All right. So anyways, the Fabian strategy, what is the reason I didn't have it on my paper was because I was supposed to read it from the book and I just remembered. All right. So it was very simple. The strategy is talking about the Roman general who marched his army around and around, just out of the reach of the enemy. He was known as the delayer from his tactics in the war against Hannibal. He cut off Hannibal's supplies, harassed him incessantly, and did everything except for engage in battle. He had a few skirmishes, but mostly he just wore down the enemy by posturing before them and by intimidation. So what the Fabian strategy is about wearing out the opponent with endless minor skirmishes, stress, laying off all these people and, stealing the farmer's land, or, putting the opponent out by giving them poison and telling them it was good for their crops, and giving, taking away rights for people to even do normal things such as protect and provide for their families. You hear about stuff. It just, and we don't want to focus on it, but we do want to be aware of what's happening in our country, in our nation. It's not an unspiritual thing to do, to be aware of the laws coming into legislation so that you can see the plan and thwart it with your action. Collapsing the wave, your intention and attention, and sharing that and telling people, using your voice, speak up. If there's something that's not sitting with us, we have to be able to speak about it. We're not going to know dystopian reality. We see the signs where there's some steering trying to do some weird stuff, but a sovereign human person who is divine, they have free will and freedom. There's no being or entity or establishment that can control the human being. The idea of that is crazy. And Mother Nature will bring balance. So we don't really have anything to worry about, Think about it that way energetically for a minute. The adversary uses belittlement. They intimidate their opponent. They do things, they use the justice system and the courts, twisted corruption to get their way. When their courts are being used and the judges being used for darkness, that has to be stopped. Can't let all that continue. I believe there are people who have a job to do, and any, small, large, in between, something they're passionate about that maybe they just need to really find what that is if they don't know. My passion is to share, be the messenger. And, how do I present? How am I presenting this? I want you to feel, ask questions. That's the thing I would do. I would tell you to ask questions and don't be afraid. Maybe on a day where you don't feel good, you let it go, but you can't procrastinate. So that was another thing I learned. I learned from reading this book about the strategies of light and dark. It has to do with procrastination. Not making a decision is making a decision. And hopefully it doesn't cause the light bearer, the human, to forget that there's cycles. Everything's happening in a cycle. So you got to get in the flow of that cycle that you find yourself on. If there's a cycle closing, then you've got to do what you got to do in a certain time, or you might lose that opportunity. We can't expect it to always come back to us. There are windows, and when they close, that's it. And if we're not paying attention to our intuitive nudges, we might miss windows of opportunity because we didn't make a decision. We were afraid to, we didn't know what to do, so therefore we did nothing. And like I said, to do nothing is a decision as well. And who does it serve if we do nothing? You know, that's the question we got to ask ourselves. It's time for us to embrace our freedom as a divine human, a being of amazingness. Going back to that story about Jesus, and whenever King Herod was looking to destroy the firstborn sons of up to 2 years because of the story, he was, one of the dark ones was using either incarnated as King Herod or within their shadow side of that archetype humanoid, that they were going to try to kill and destroy the divine plan, which they don't have any right, they can't. So Jesus, the story I like about how his father had a dream that he was told by an angelic presence or force that you have to leave, you have to go. And so they had to do it because they had that window, that time. You know, they couldn't just take days to determine, hey, where are we going to stay? What kind of work am I going to do? You know, they didn't have that luxury. They had to act because it was that moment and that cycle to escape. So they went to Egypt for a little while. So that's another thing too. I am a curator. I love history. I love myth. And I also teach spirituality. I don't even want to call myself an expert, but I love to share what I know. And so in Egypt, there's a part of the Coptic Egypt where the family of Jesus, his father and mother, they lived. I just share that story with you guys. So we have to really be in tune with our cycles. Where are we? Did it just finish? I think we're closing it. It's almost done. I'm hearing it's going to be done by the full moon, the eclipse. Oh, that's the end of it officially. In the stars and sky is is it a lunar or solar eclipse? Oh my gosh, I haven't read about it. On February 17th, the lunar calendar, I believe it's like the Chinese New Year begins, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it begins February 17th, the year of the fire horse is going to kick in, and we're going to be on fast track, energetically speaking. So we need to make sure that we do not procrastinate when things are important and we've been guided to do something. We need to act in that flow in the mind. When we think about it, it's time to act. And if we're not able to at that particular moment because we're in the middle of something, write it down. Write it down and come back to it. Tend to prioritize that which defeats the adversary in your own life, because you're the sovereign. You know, we have to defeat the adversary that is within us, right? You know, that metaphoric thing, as above, so below, and within and without, and all of that manifesting in our bodies, our 7 bodies. So you got to do it, whatever it is. That's my message to you. You got to remember that saying, by their fruits you're going to recognize them. That's the only way you're going to know who to trust and who to not support. Don't buy the products. We know who the adversary is. We know the tactics. We've seen it throughout history. Nothing's changed, but except for right now, they already know they've lost the plot, and people are not going to have it. You know, we all, like I said, I believe people are mostly good, provided they are operating with good intentions. I'm a mess sometimes. I'm the person who always spills stuff on my clothes. It's ridiculous. It's been happening my whole life. I figure now I'm over 50, it's not going to change. I might as well embrace that side of myself. But man, who has time to be spilling stuff on their clothes? If you've been struggling and you don't know what to do about a thing, don't postpone it. It's time to make it Bring it to the forefront. Do that one thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Come on. You can do it. Raise the energy. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Farmers. Look at who's attacking the farmers. Support your local farms. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I think that's it. Just to pay attention to the cycles and be in tune with the cycles and know thyself. Know what your heart is going. What's going on? What do you want? What's keeping you from? What's keeping you from? What is keeping you from having what it is you want? Be honest. Be honest with yourself. Because more than likely there's some strategies occurring in your life. You may or may not be aware there are beings that are using them. And, once we can see something, that a form of enlightenment as well as the awareness, then we transform it. We collapse the wave with our intentions. No, you will not do that in my lifetime. Hell no. No. That's it. It's that simple. All right, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I am going to bring out the 7 etheric bodies in my next one. And if you don't hear me do it, then remind me, okay? Because I've got a lot of stuff I got to do. And from here on out, I do plan on producing at least 2 videos a week. And maybe 3 if I can get more time. I do have a lot going on right now, and I'm trying to keep myself busy in projects. Of course, if I'm not reaching my goal, then I've got to reassess where I'm at. Take a breath and a pause, right? Feel it. You know how you just feel it? Oh yeah, the heart center. Communing with your heart. So that was what it came to me when I was like, what do I call this? Know thyself, be true, the heart knows the way. That was what I heard. So when you're connecting to what you want, what you feel, what do you want? What is it? Come on, write it down. If you don't know, just keep writing and you'll figure it out before it's all said and done. That's the best prompt ever. What do I want? Write it down. 10, gotta get at least 10. If you get more than that, then you're doing good. Oh, communing with your heart. Sometimes we need a little tension, push and pull, and some energy flowing in order to get stuff done. For some people, procrastination's a real thing. It's a habit, perhaps. Maybe they grew up when, or maybe there's biological reasons. There are people who are neurodivergent. And sometimes, everyone's response to things is different. So we're not here to judge it, okay? But we're just knowing and being aware that not everyone responds the same. 7 auric bodies are the etheric, emotional, mental, astral, celestial, and tetheric. Is according to this, I want to say it's an area of Ayurvedic or Vedic type thing. I don't know who's the originator of that, but I know it's from the East, like India and China had their own system of chi. One calls it prana. So they taught about the 7 bodies. And so each body within us is affected by the other one. So the emotions, the pain, the fear, anxiety, all of that's going to be, if we have these issues that we haven't cleared out, we're going to have, imprints too. Like I was aware of past lives when I was a child. For some reason, I don't know, I was seeing things like in visions, like if it was happening in this lifetime. And I think that's to collapse. There's sometimes it's just a really weird thing. It's maybe like deja vu. It's hard to explain, but that's something I've always seen, like different lifetimes. And so being able to be aware of, where does this pain in the back come from? Does somebody stabbed you in the back? But literally, like there's this oozing pain. Remember, you got a tattoo back there that feels like, you've got pain in your body. And then I went in and asked, I'm like, well, what is that? And that, I'm like, wow, God, it does. It feels like someone stabbed me. Well, literally, I got a tattoo where the needles were stabbing into my skin. So I created something that maybe I didn't need to. And I'm not speaking against tattoos. I love art and beautiful art. I had the best tattoo artist, I believe, except for, I have some issues now. I got allergic to the ink and tattoos. I can't do them anymore, but I still appreciate beautiful works of art when I see it. Yeah, so I'm just saying, energetically, I created something that needed, I suppose it needs to be seen and cleared, because now I know. And so my guidance tells me how to heal that. And I believe in the power of plants and oils, and you know, there's amazing things that can heal us if we tap in. And in our intention, you know, if you want to heal, you can. You just really gotta believe and seek out the answers. It may not be from the sick care system exactly, but you know, who knows? It could be. I mean, you could find it there. There's people who do get help for a while, you know. But anyway, so thank you so much for joining me today. You have a blessed day. Tell me what you want to hear, or let's talk. What do you want me to talk about? What do we want to practice tarot cards? I have a class that I'm going to be teaching where we're going to be meeting up twice a month to do a tarot class, ask questions and so on. And it's really fun, and I'd love for you to join me. So later.